Mr. President, I do not have those concerns for a number of reasons. In fact, I see some advantages to consumers here in New York State with the enactment of this legislation and New York's ultimately joining this interstate compact. And I say that for this reason. Very often, we all see the ads that insurance products are available throughout the country except New York because of the fact that it can take the department up to a year to approve a new insurance product. Now, the compact deals with life insurance related products, life insurance, annuities, disability income, long-term care insurance. That's what's covered under this legislation. That's what's dealt with at the existing interstate insurance product regulation compact, which, by the way, 45 other states are a member of that compact. But back to the consumer concerns, there are advantages to the consumer because products can come to market faster and be available to consumers to meet their needs here in New York if we were a member of the compact. Also, in today's mobile society where people tend to be moving across state lines, and these life insurance products have a long lifespan for the most part, and as people move across state lines, the uniformity of the product and other aspects of the regulation of these products through the compact, that would follow them from state to state. Now, I would point out that the compact is designed to be a single point of contact so that companies that have an insurance product and want both their product and the rate approved can do so with the compact, and then that product would be available throughout all of the member states. As I said, 45 states, 46 if New York joined. And that's an advantage. Obviously, it streamlines the whole process. But also, I would point out that if New York State, the department, or this legislature felt that for whatever reason the compact, they did not agree with a decision made at the compact, there is an opt-out provision here so that New York, either through regulation or legislation, could opt out, and then the normal process here in New York could proceed. And so that's further protection if something goes awry at the compact in the view of New York State.
Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So I'm reviewing the opt-out option within the state compact, and in fact, the option is quite burdensome and restrictive on the state and effectively designed to preclude a state who's part of the compact from opting out. There's a heavy burden to meet in order to opt out once you have joined the compact. There's inadequate time to make the case for the opt-out. The potential for challenge on appeal is there where they can refuse to allow you to opt out. And interestingly, for the states that participate, the one story I could find was that Florida having stronger protections for consumers than the compact once they joined, that the compact actually threw them out because they wanted to keep their stronger protections in their insurance law. So they ended up throwing the state out of the compact rather than allowing the state to keep its stronger consumer protections. So again, why is the sponsor so sure that we would have the flexibility we need to opt out when it seems to be so biased in favor of the compact, not the individual state?
Well, Mr. President, I would respond with 2 points. Number one, with New York, should we join the compact, because of our market share here in New York, we would be a major voice and a major force on the compact. We would automatically become part of the management of the commission and have a large voice in decisions made at the compact. So I think the concerns of New York would be reflected in decisions made by the compact. But I would point out again, the opt-out is there, that option is available, and should New York State disagree with a decision made at the compact, then we do have that option to opt out. And or, I wasn't aware of the Florida incident that you cited, but if it's accurate, we could be thrown out. So it's a one way or the other. New York would have a major voice at the compact. If we disagree, there are options to go it alone here in New York State.
Through you, Mr. President, the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sponsor yields.
Actually, we're looking it up, but we think Florida's bigger than New York in population now, so it is. Thank you, Senator
Number 3rd state
Griffo.
in the union.
So if they can actually choose to override Florida and throw them out, they could probably do the same to us as well. The sponsor was talking about the concern that right now we may in fact have different insurance. I'm sorry, I don't want to. Are you okay, Mr. President? Good, thank you. The sponsor pointed out that because New York State has its own laws and standards and isn't part of the compact, we have different insurance products than other states. That's true. I actually think we have better insurance products. I just want to clarify. I thought I heard him say that means as people leave and go to other states or come, that they can't take their New York State insurance coverage with them. But I'm just double checking. I thought if you live in New York and you buy insurance that you continue to have the right to keep that insurance if you move to a different state. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, depending on the contract, obviously. But the point is that there are advantages to the consumer because of the fact that with the compact, they could, if they move to another state, if they have purchased a product under the auspices of the compact, has been approved by the compact, they can make, it's a little easier to make alterations, additions, changes, those types of things, because of it would be uniform in their new state. That is a point, but you're correct. If you can maintain your coverage if you do move.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. President, through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Sponsor yields.
Yes.
Thank you. There's also concerns about, because we have higher standards than many states, that people under a contract would actually lose a number of the protections. One of the examples is that in New York State, deferred annuity contract holders have protections from under New York non-forfeiture law, and that if we were to roll into the contract, our deferred annuity holders would not have the same protections of our existing non-forfeiture law. Account values, surrender values, death and income benefits would all be lower under the compact approved annuity products. Is that not a concern for us here in New York?
Well, we would be talking about here new products going forward that are come before the compact. Certainly, if we're not looking to roll back existing consumer protections that are in place, and as I would point out once again, if that is a concern here in New York, that the compact was in fact not adequately protecting consumers here in New York, we always have that opt-out option.
Through you, Mr. President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Okay. Appreciate the answers. So no, we're not totally sure we would have the opt-out option because opting out is difficult. But if we join the compact, while if you owned an annuity the day before we joined the compact, you might have all the existing protections. Excuse me, Mr. President? May I ask Senator Hannan a question?
Senator Hannan has not spoken, so is not eligible to be questioned at this point in time, Senator Kruger, so you may continue with Senator Seward.
Thank you. So, Senator Seward, existing law, if I have a product that I've purchased the day before we go into the compact, I have these protections. But if I'm buying a product a week after we join the compact, I wouldn't have the same protections because we know for a fact that the compact has weaker standards on deferred annuity. Is that correct?
Well, Mr. President, it wouldn't be that automatic. We would be joining the compact under this legislation, or give New York the option of doing that to allow us to do so. And what would occur would be insurance companies would be approaching the compact with a new product and seeking a rate, and then after the compact has approved that, considered it, approved it, only that going forward, it would not impact existing protections. And once again, if there's concern about lack of protections for consumers, we have the opt-out. But also, as I pointed out before, New York would have a major voice on the compact, and I would suggest that many of the protections that we currently have in New York would be reflected in ongoing future decisions of the compact.
Through you, Mr. President, the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So under the current compact without New York, they have lower account values, surrender values, death benefits, and income benefits than our insurance products in New York. Do we think we could make sure that our existing standards were applied to a compact with 45 other states, since theirs are all lower than ours now?
If New York were to join the compact and decisions going forward, New York would have a major voice, and I think many of our protections that we have here in New York I would predict, would be reflected in future decisions of the compact. But if there were, I keep repeating myself, but if there are concerns, New York always has that option to opt out.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
I have a series of concerns, and I personally would opt out if we were in, but I'm trying to make sure we don't go in and then have to opt out. An additional concern is that we have very strong solvency protections that the compact does not have. So a great discussion in this legislature, even earlier today in a committee meeting I was in, were concerns about Health Republic having gone bankrupt and the fact that we don't have certain standards for health insurance companies going under, but we have them for other kinds of companies. So if we join the compact under their current law, our solvency protections would be reduced for life insurance, annuities, and long-term care, which under current New York State law have to be self-supporting for solvency purposes. Does the sponsor share any of my concerns that we would be weakening the protections for policyholders regarding the ongoing solvency of insurance companies to have to make good on the products that they sell?
No, and I would just say my previous answers apply to this question as well.
Excellent.
Okay. Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Under current law, if you are objecting to how an insurance company is treating you under the contract you believed you signed and that you believe they're in violation of your contract, you can go to our DFS, who can take action against an insurer relating to their not making good on their contract. What would happen if we were under the 45 or perhaps 46 state compact? Where would you go to make a complaint that your insurance company violated the contract?
Mr. President, this legislation and joining the compact would not dismantle the Consumer Protection Unit at DFS, and the current process that is in place would remain.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator Seward yields.
Thank you. So it's my understanding that you could only go to a DFS consumer protection with a complaint if there was prior authorization by the compact. Is that your understanding?
That is not my understanding.
Through you, Mr. President, I think I have read the bill differently, but I accept that we may have a different understanding of the powers of the compact versus the powers of DFS to protect us when we go into insurance contracts. On the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Kruger on the bill.
Thank you. So I think this all comes down to the question, who does it advantage for us to go into a compact versus remain as a state with a strong insurance industry but strong consumer protections? I would argue that we shouldn't be giving up any consumer protections, and that going into this compact, even if found constitutional, which I think it may not be, would undermine existing regulatory and statutory protections for consumers. I'm proud of the fact that New York State has such strong consumer protections when you go out into the insurance market. I'm proud of the fact that we have a Department of Financial Services. Could you ask for some quiet? Thank you.
Quiet, please.
Thank you. I'm proud that we have a Department of Financial Services where you can go to try to get resolution of problems. I don't like at all the idea that we'd be actually giving up existing protections both for individual consumers and for the standards we have applied to solvency of insurance companies and insurance products in the state. I like the fact that we have an ability to evaluate the rates that insurance companies charge, and if people think that they are being overcharged, the books must be opened, and the DFS can evaluate whether or not the increased charges are justified by insurance companies. I like the fact that we in the legislature have continuing authority to try to fix problems when they arise. And please remember, we would be giving up that legislative authority also for any future products. I don't like that the compact has less stringent ethical prohibitions than our current state laws do, and that our current stronger ethical prohibitions would be overridden by the compact. While the sponsor continued to say we could opt out, again, the experience of other states is that that has not been particularly effective or successful. Yes, we could drop out, begging the question or raising the question of why should we go on in the first place if we have a better system in place. The sponsor argues that New York would have the ability to influence the entire compact for all the other states, but New York would only have one vote as the member of the compact and only one vote as a member of the Management Commission, which consists of 14 members. So New York's ability to influence the interstate compact would be minimal, and there is no veto power on this commission. So again, we have better laws than most states. We have stronger consumer protections. We have more opportunity to insert ourselves when things go wrong to try to fix them. We don't have a lack of insurance company activity in New York State, and I personally don't understand why we want to give up our stronger protections, our stronger rights, and default down to some race to the bottom of protecting consumers so that the industry finds it easier because they can have one set of rules. If the other 46 states showed up and said, we want to develop a compact that has New York State's rules and regulations, I'd say hear, hear, because they would be realizing we've set it up with greater consumer protections for the people of New York State. But that's not what we're being asked to do. And if we join the compact, we will not have the power to change the lowered standards that already exist and are in place. I urge my colleagues to think about this carefully. I know many of us have voted yes in the past. I'm hoping it's not going to come into law this year. I urge people to vote no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Breslin on the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I stand in support of this bill, having been a sponsor of it when we were in the majority and having been a co-sponsor for the number of years prior and thereafter. And the Interstate Insurance Product Regulation Compact, let's take a step back. Compacts have been accepted in New York State for years and years and years. They've gone through the court process. A compact is valid. You can enter into agreements with other states. Now, with insurance, insurance is state-based. It isn't like banks where there's a federal and a state charter. So insurance is state-based, but there are many products, and you can think of those insurance products that are just almost identical, okay, and state by state. So the National Association of Insurance Commissioners some 15 years ago, along with the National Conference of Insurance Legislators, got together and started talking about ways to make the insurance industry better. And one of it was with products that are marketable in a number of states and very similar. You could use this compact process, and it was entered into. And as Senator Seward said, there are now 45 of the 50 states. And I might add, New York State is the #1 producer in the United States and in the world. But there are 7 states that are among the top 20 producers in the world. So with the internet and electronic filings that are possible, this does a lot to make insurance companies in the state of New York better. It gives them an ability to get to the market quicker, rather than waiting for the inane process of approvals when other states are ahead of them selling the same product. And as Senator Seward said, in this compact, which incidentally has been recommended by the Federal Insurance Office, which was set up by the Dodd-Frank legislation, been recommended that we get into it to help consumers. So Senator Seward explains clearly the opt-out procedures that are available, and I could go on, but time is late. Suffice it to say, I believe it is positive for the state of New York, for its insurance industry that have been crying out for it for years, and the idea that we are the best at everything is, to me, speaks volumes about being too cocky about our ability to sell products, because in many cases New York falls behind when it loses that competitive advantage. And I would urge all my colleagues to consider this and vote for it and to get part of the Interstate Compact. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Breslin. Seeing and hearing no other senator that wishes to be heard, debate is closed. Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read the last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect on the 180th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Senator Hannan to explain his vote.
Thank you. I rise in support and congratulate Senator Seward and Senator Breslin for sponsoring this bill. This whole bill was a way to keep the state's jurisdiction over insurance preserved, because there's been a movement in the federal government to take over what has been a state prerogative. The opposition to this bill reminds me of that famous New Yorker cover, which showed somebody looking across America from Manhattan, and Manhattan was bigger than the rest of the world. We're part of a nation. We're part of a nationwide market. The standards that are built into this bill protect consumers. They protect the state's jurisdiction for the Attorney General and the Insurance Department, and we're carefully balanced so that New York would have a predominant role. I vote yes.
Senator Hannan to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Sanders to explain his vote.
Both sides, Mr. President, have made persuasive arguments here. I'm going to, with a heavy heart, I'm going to go with our ranker on this. So I will stay in the committee.
Senator Sanders to be recorded in the affirmative. Chair will announce results.
Ayes 58, nays 2, Senators Kruger and Perkins recorded in the negative.
The bill is passed. Senator DeFrancisco, that completes the controversial reading of today's active list calendar.
If
Can I have some order, please? The Senator may be making some interesting announcements.
well, not really. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for a motion. I believe he's running over here now. Can we return to motions and resolutions?
We will return to motions and resolutions.
I wish to call up Senator Croce's bill, print number 6361, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 120 by Senator Croce, Senate Print 6361, an act granting.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 60.
I now offer the following amendments.
The amendments are received.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business before the desk.
In that case, I move to adjourn until Thursday, June 9th at 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
That's the announcement. The Senate will stand adjourned on motion until Thursday, June 9th at 11 a.m. The Senate is adjourned.